you're completely right, man. Like, you just gotta like have an open mind, but also like, you know, be selective, I guess.
Yeah, and also challenge some of the stats being put out there. I know media is funny that way, right? Like they
Oh
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a little clickbait. Even the mainstream media,
Oh,
right? Like, I mean, you look at like a Fox News, right? Don't tell me that's not clickbait. The whole thing's clickbait.
oh,
Like it's
all
just
of it.
all, it's always serving someone else's agenda. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, be inquisitive, question everything. It's nothing wrong to do that. Don't be afraid to challenge something that everybody else is accepting as to being absolutely true. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Yeah.
how do you come to that result? It's sort of like the scientific method approach, right? It's like I'm going to question everything until I can prove it myself, or observe it myself. And that's something that I've had to really work on as well. Just and it really becomes apparent because the last 5 years before moving back to Vancouver, we were traveling. We traveled around North America. I decided to quit my career of 17 years, and my wife quit hers a month later and pulled the kids out of school. And we started traveling. We gave away all our stuff. We packed up the SUV and we're like, okay, well, we traveled around North America, and eventually we went overseas. And we spent 2.5 years in Southeast Asia, most of which in Bali. And when you start living amongst developing country cultures, you start to realize, like, man, we think we have all the answers, but I think
Mhm.
we've actually forgot some of the most basic fundamentals of living a great life. And when you look at Dan Butner's work, he did some work with National Geographic, and he did the research around the blue zones. And the blue zones are these 5 areas around the world where they decided to go study because they had more people living to be 100 or older.
Mm.
And these people aren't the way we think about someone in their hundreds in North America, we're like, you're probably just waiting in a home somewhere,
Yeah,
or
like
just
all
sitting in a
withered.
chair all day. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like not really doing much. You're just sort of sitting around waiting. No, but these people were thriving. They were contributing to society. They were active members. They were living on their, like, just thriving,
That's
like,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Like some of them were competing in sports still. Of course, in their age category, there's this
That's
lady, Ida.
insane.
Well, look up Ida Keeling. Ida Keeling on YouTube. She's now since passed, but before she passed, she competed in the 100-meter sprint. And she did 17 seconds. 17 seconds,
That's not
which,
bad at all.
dude, 17 seconds is pretty freaking awesome.
It's
Like
pretty good.
it's, or sorry, was it 50? Sorry, it might have been a 50-meter sprint. Sorry, but I mean, it's no, nothing like oh gosh, what's his name? Who's the guy that's got the 100-meter or 50-meter sprint record right now? It's
50
Usain
or
Bolt, right?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Is it
yeah,
Usain? I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's Usain,
Usain Bolt.
which was whatever, like 8 something, right? Or 9 seconds. But so it's quite a bit more than that, but I don't care. If you're in the hundreds and you can do 17 seconds and 50 meters, like, sign me up. I'm all for that. I don't know if I could do that. Like, I'm like, wow.
Seriously.
But it's incredible to just see that, you know, even because we age doesn't mean we have to not be as vital and not have a certain standard of quality of life. And so he did this research, and it's really fascinating because he found that there was 9 common themes in all 5 of these places around the world. I mean, there was one place in Japan, there's a place in Italy, a place in the UK, a place in the States. So, and I think there was one in South America. Either way, so you got this nice little cross section of different countries, different cultures, but these 5 unique populations all had the highest density of people living 100 or older. And he found there was 9 themes. None of these themes cost money. It's all lifestyle.
Mm,
It's like they choose to eat most of their calories from whole foods, mostly plant-based. They still eat animal protein, but majority of their calories comes from plants. They have a little bit of alcohol, so some of them was wine. Japan, they tend to drink a little bit more wine rice, a little bit more sake. But there's a little bit, they don't abuse it. They also have strong community connections, great ties with relationships with family. They prioritize family time. They take time to relax. They have great stress management, mental health management. They're active every day, but they don't go to the gym. They're just active. They move their bodies.
like walking and yeah.
Yeah, walking, gardening, dancing, like just living life. Like, remarkable. But nothing was rocket science. Nothing cost money. It was just a choice to live life a certain way. So what's the deal? We got these people living to be in their hundreds, loving life. They live a simple life, but they're extremely happy. And so it's like, I forget how there's a parable or a story that goes and talks about a gentleman. You work your whole life to save enough money, and then we determine that we can retire and be happy now. But it's like very often it's the opposite, right?
Right, yeah.
We can find happiness wherever we want it. It's just whether we choose to allow it into our life or not. Like it's just it's just super interesting. I became really fascinated, especially after my dad passed. I was like, wow, he was the kind of guy, he worked his entire life, built a successful practice, eventually sold it, had a desire to travel with my stepmom, and they had done a lot of traveling, but he was like, retirement, he's going to do even more traveling. And then just as soon as he sold his business, it was just a health complication, and he passed away at an early age of 72. And he was like
Mhm.
young 72. Like you wouldn't have ever thought. You meet my dad, you'd be like, yeah, you're probably in your 50s. Like he looked young, and then it was just life, right? So it put things in perspective. I learned a lot by having that experience and going through the end of life with him, and it's just interesting when you start looking at some of these things, you start questioning what really matters, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
I make such a big deal out of some of the smallest things. I'm like, why, right? And that's interesting. I mean, I feel like our conversation is more philosophical now than anything, but it's, you know what I mean? It's just it's interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely, like, I feel like our society is mostly just go, go, go.
Mm,
I feel like we can definitely
mm,
take a note or 2 from these 100-year-old people who can go
yeah.
17 seconds in a 50 meter. Like,
They can sprint when they want
w
to.
wow,
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah.
seriously, like, just I feel like there's no time in our society to say, like, "Oh, I need to slow down," or, like, "I need to
Mm,
spend more time with family." I feel like it's almost frowned upon.
yeah.
Maybe less so moving forward because we're talking about stuff like this, but
Mm,
definitely, like, the last couple of years or, like, the last couple decades have been, like, work, 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 and that
right.
determines success, that determines happiness, when in reality, like, these people, they're loving their community members, they're loving their family, they're taking time out of their day to dance or, like, walk,
Yes,
like, and they're
yes.
living to be 100.
Yeah,
So,
and thriving, right? Loving life, and
mhm,
it's very duplicatable. Like even when you look at their diet, it's largely like a Mediterranean diet, So there's lots of fishes, lots of fresh veggies and fruits, and just really simple, nothing super fancy, but you know, uh, almost paleo-ish, right? But they tend to eat and source foods more locally as well. It was really simple. Like my wife and I, we bought last year. She bought Christmas gifts for a lot of our family. Just bought the Blue Zone. They have a beautiful cookbook, and it's kind of neat. They show you all these different dishes, and it was great because then we started to implement at least a couple times a month having different meals from this, and it just gave us this sort of it brought it to a new level because we're like, wow, man, I could eat like this all the time, like it's
yeah,
just super simple. It wasn't anything super fancy. It was just, but very nourishing, right? And but you start to realize that, man, we don't have to be super complicated when it comes to nutrition. I think there's a tendency, and I think it intimidates a lot of people. That's why there's gratification in just buying instantly made food, right? Like
mhm,
it's a lot easier, it's simpler. You don't have to think about it. But when we go that route, we tend to get a lot more of the preservatives and a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the sugar add-ins and the salt add-ins. Why? Because it's got to make the food taste good. Uh, and so it's reconnecting with some of these basics, right? And realizing we don't have to um, try to complicate things.